Now for our first scenario, we're going to have Roy here at the bar, and Ed will be approaching Roy in a menacing way. Now when you're in an altercation, you have two basic ways fights begin: engaged and not engaged. When somebody walks up to you in a fight, the most common ways fights begin is not engaged. They walk up to you nose to nose. This is your best opportunity to end the fight. You have a headbutt, a knee, an elbow. Fight can be over right there. The worst thing you can do when somebody is this close to you is to back up outside of trapping range and put your hands up and begin the fight, which is what most people do. Or they'll cuss or they'll push until finally one guy ends up hitting the other guy. What I want you to do in a fight is to hit first off, elbow, knee, headbutt, straight blast, and finish the fight. We're going to show you now the way an average fight begins. Now, what we saw here was the worst thing a person can do. Ed approached Roy, and the first thing Roy did was he stood up, he had Ed right here for a nice headbutt, and they shoved each other. They both put their hands up, and then they allowed each other to begin the fight. You don't want to do this. Jeet Kune Do is intercepting. So to intercept the fight right away, you hit first. So our first rule is, the firstest with the mostest is the bestest. Now what you're going to see is basically the same scenario. We're going to have a different result. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm not going to stand up and talk. I'm not going to push. I'm not going to put my hands up. I'm just going to do my thing. Now, as you notice, Joe could have been a better fighter than me. I don't know. I never gave him that chance. I never put my hands up. I never got into a stance. I just started with a headbutt and ended it. Remember, firstest with the mostest is the bestest. Now for our next scenario, we're going to have a 2-on-1. We're going to have Trevor approaching the two people. Instead of splitting the people up, he's going to hit one guy and come back and hit the other guy. This is very common. Jumping right in the middle of a fight. This is not what we want to do. Let's see how the results end up. Now, not too pretty. This is usually what ends up happening when you're trying to fight 4 fists at one time. What Trevor did wrong was he hit the first guy, he came back and he hit the second guy. What you want to do when you fight 2-on-1 is fight 1-on-1. Always split people up. So rule number 2, fight one person at a time, 2-on-1. Now what you're going to see here is the same scenario. The only difference is I'm going to split the people up. I'm not going to fight two people at once. I'm going to get my first good shot in, and I'm going to do a straight blast. The best thing about a straight blast is it splits people up when you have a mass attack. Now, what did I do? I didn't fight two people at once. I didn't stay in the middle, hit one person, and then come back and hit the other guy. By straight blasting Ron, that gave me the latitude to back up, get my hands up, and fight the next bad guy. Rule number 2, fight one person at a time. Now in this next scenario, we have a 2-on-1. John's in the middle. John feels that a fight is about to ensue. He turns around and tries to fight both people. This never works. He will get swarmed on. Take a look.
Hey, man. Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Now in this next scenario, we're going to have the same deal, 2-on-1. I'll be in the middle. When you fight 2-on-1, it's very, very difficult. I highly recommend an equalizer. Ashtrays, bottles, headbutts, they all work. Now we graduate to possibly our worst case scenario. We have a mass attack, but we have no room to move. We have close quarters. We have 4 fists flying at us at one time, and again we need to establish the parameters. Where is our escape route? Where is our footwork? And how do we get out of the way first? Before we worry about any punches, any kicks, any elbows, any knees, we first have to establish our escape route and to be street smart. Once we've done this, then we take the punches and the kicks and the elbows and we just escalate it. So again, as with our training, we have to go in a progression. So we're going to start out with 2 guys right here, and we're just going to build on that. So hang with me. Now, when we're in this situation where we have 2 adversaries on this end, again, we have to neutralize the opponent first. I'm going to try to get into my range and grab that neck, and I'm going to use the person whose neck I have as a shield to prevent me from getting hit from the other person. So before we throw in the weapons, again, with the progression, we want to neutralize the opponent first. So what you're going to watch me do is simply absorb a couple punches, come in, hang on, and just zone away from the second man. Now. Now again, the key word is progression. You didn't see one punch being thrown. All I did was get up, I absorbed a couple punches, and I neutralized the opponent. And from that position, I was not even concerned about the person that I had. I was looking at the other person, and I was zoning away from him. Once you have the neck of one person, you're going to be elbowing, you're going to be kneeing in the groin, the thumbs will be in the eyes, all that will be going on. But while that's going on, you're keeping aware of the other people from the periphery. This is the important thing. I've seen so many situations where there are professional kickboxers, Thai boxers, masters, black belts, regardless, but they just simply don't have the street smart. Get them in the ring or get them in a tournament, they can fight. Put them in a bar and forget it. Most people that are going to come up to you in a bar are going to have a shotgun mouth and a BB gun ass, and you got to understand that. They're going to get right up in your face and they're going to start talking. So if you're the person that hits first and keeps on hitting, zones away from the second guy, you're going to do well. That's your best bet. Now in this scenario, we have an adversary on each side of us, okay? It's going to be the same mentality again. We're zoning, we're neutralizing, and we're looking for the exit. But in this particular scenario, we're going to have Ron punching first. He's going to initiate the punch from the chair, and then we're just going to let things flow. Brad is Ron's buddy in our particular scenario here, so Brad is going to be coming in at the same time. So the last thing I would want, come up slow, Ron, and give me a punch, boom, would be to stay right here in the middle of the mix. So again, being street smart, you're going to watch what's going to happen. When I take the first punch, I'm going to zone on this side to keep Brad away from me. If you don't have the street smart, if you don't know what's going on in the bar, you don't know who's friends with who, it's your own damn fault. So at this point, again, this is the tape of this, more so than this. All right, on a 3 count, I want you to go, Ron. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Now again, we have to cover the most important points. Ron threw the punch at me, I covered the first punch. Whether I took it or covered, regardless, that's not important. I grabbed Ron's head and I zoned him. I was neutralizing Ron and I was looking at Brad. This is the most important thing in a street fight. It's not a question of punching or kicking or elbowing or kneeing or headbutting. It's a question of positioning yourself properly first, and then the weapons will come naturally. Now in this scenario, we're going to have Dave walking up in my face and pointing like most people do. I'm going to initiate my strike with Dave, whatever I'm going to do, a headbutt, a knee, an elbow. I'm going to hang on and neutralize, but out of the corner of my eye, I see Rob coming from the dance floor. That's his Dave's buddy. So Rob is going to run around from this side. So naturally, after I'm done doing my thing with Dave, I'm going to shove him this way and I'm going that way. Again, we're trying to be evasive. We're not trying to be aggressive. We're not sitting here trying to fight everybody in the bar. We're going to get a couple good headbutts in, a couple good elbows, and get the hell out of there. So we're going to start the action right from here. Okay, ready, Dave? Good. Now, again, what would have happened in reality? Hopefully a couple knees and headbutts would have taken Dave out. I threw Dave into Rob, and I was that direction. I've neutralized the attack, and I've gone out the back door. Now we're going to be introducing the elbows, the knees, the headbutts, all the weapons. Before we actually do this, I want to remind you of a few important points. Most fights start by talking. Most fights start when a guy gets up in your face, nose to nose. I will give you one principle. If you listen to me, you will win 99% of your fights. Hit first, and don't stop hitting. There's no such thing as a push. You never cuss, you never yell, you never get into an argument. If you know a fight is going to happen, you hit first. And when you do hit, you don't stop hitting. And you keep in mind your opponent. So what you're going to watch me do is I'm going to be approached by 2 people. I know the fight is inevitable. I'm going to take one guy out of commission. Whatever happens to the other guy, at least it'll be one-on-one after that. Hang with me. Now again, remember our scenario. I'm going to have two people approaching me. I know the fight is inevitable, so I'm going to hit first. You're not trying to be Billy Jack, you're just trying to get out safely. So again, you hit first, don't stop hitting, and then you got a one-on-one situation because you've taken one guy out. The whole key to a mass attack is to fight one person. You don't fight two people at one time. So on my mark, two people are going to approach me, and you're going to see exactly how it would happen. Okay, ready, fellas? Okay, and go. Now we have a similar scenario where two people are approaching me. If you look in the last take we just did, I shot the elbow at the face first. I initiated with a good weapon, a headbutt, a knee, and elbow. Once you get that first shot buried on one guy, forget about him, go to the next guy. Again, you're only fighting one person at a time. In this particular case, I have an ashtray at my disposal. That's going to be my weapon for Bob. After the ashtray, I'm going to go straight to Trevor. I'm done with Bob. Okay, fellas, on my mark. And go. Now in our next scenario is going to be a 3-on-1. A 3-on-1 in a close quarter situation is pretty much a no-win scenario. You have one chance in 100, and that is if you can take the first guy out with one shot, then you straight blast the second guy, that will split them up. Hopefully you'll take him out with a few elbows, knees, or headbutts, then you turn back and engage on the third man to a one-on-one fight. If you don't do that, you're going to be stuck in the middle, what I call the fog of war, and you're just going to get swarmed on. Let's take a look at it.
Great.
Now, Diallo got stuck in the fog of war. What he chose to do was stay right in the middle. He took one punch, he took another punch here, and he got swarmed on by 6 punches. So remember, when we're fighting a mass attack, always fight one person at a time. Now, same scenario, 3 people on one. Hopefully I'm going to take the first guy out with my first best blow. I'm going to separate the other two, and then I got a one-on-one shot. That's my only chance at this. Now we have possibly our worst scenario. We have a 3-on-1 situation. We have no room to move. I have 2 people here. I have 1 guy here. I'm going to try to take this guy out and get away from these 2. I'm going to zone away from these 2 people. So the first thing you have to know when you're fighting 3 people is you got to hit first. You got to get a weapon. There's no way you will ever be able to fight 3 people in a close quarter situation. I'm talking about 3 fighters, not 3 librarians arguing about the Dewey Decimal System, okay? 3 fighters, 3 people pissed off at you, 6 hands flying at you at the same time, forget it. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit first, I'm going to move, and I'm going to zone. And I'm going to run after I take one guy out of commission. Okay, fellas, on my mark. And go. Now, when we're in a bar situation and you have a 2-on-2 match, usually you have 2 one-on-one fights. This is not the most efficient way to win a street fight. Let's take a look. Now in our next round, you're going to see the same 2-on-2 fight, except they're going to fight with a little bit of street savvy. If you look at Stuart, he makes eye contact with Pat. They both feel that a fight is about to happen. Stuart glances over, and they both swarm on one person. Now you have 4 fists flying on one person. They've taken this guy out of commission, then they go to the next fight. So instead of 2-on-2, you have 2-on-1. Now in this next scenario, Shram and Chris are going to end up on the ground. At that point, it will be a good idea to know how to ground fight. review, we have a one-on-one, a two-on-one, a three-on-one, a ground game, and we have a weapons game coming up. Just keep in mind what Bruce Lee said for rule number 4. Be like water and be able to adapt. Now this next round is going to be 5-on-2. This is basically a no-win scenario. When you have 5-on-2, you have to grab a weapon and have an equalizer, otherwise you don't stand a chance. We're shooting pool. The most logical thing is our pool cue. I recommend you just bust the cue. You have your Sinawali. This is a house cue. That'll work. So follow along with us. Go. Go. Now, we just had a 5-on-2 fight. As you saw in a 3-on-1, when everybody swarmed on Diallo, you stand no chance whatsoever. So our only prayer would have been to grab a stick, grab any kind of equalizer, which is what we did. So as we look back on the tape, we've had ground fighting, we've had 2-on-1, 3-on-1, we've had weapon work. So remember rule number 5, grab an equalizer. Now in this last scenario, we have a mass attack. This is the worst type of fight you can be in. You have no friends. Bottles are flying. Your only goal is to exit the room. There are no tough guys. You'll see what I try to do when I exit it the wrong way, standing up, as most people would, and then you'll see how I exit it like a rat. Let's take a look. Remember, when you're in an altercation, you don't know what kind of a fight you're going to be in. Could be a weapons fight, could be a one-on-one, could be a two-on-one, could be a ground fight. So none of this information is available to you until the time comes. So therefore, you have to have the ability to flow.
Hi, I'm Paul Vunak.
Hi, I'm Paul Vunak.
Hi, I'm Paul Vunak.
Now, as you notice, Joe could have been a better fighter than me. I don't know. I never gave him that chance.
When you teach police officers, you can't put them on the same ground as the average suspect. The average guy out there is going to punch and kick. That's what they do. We need to have a different game plan. We need to have a way to intercept the punch, get in, straight blast, headbutt, knee, and elbow, pick up a knife, ground fight. The main message that I want to convey to people is to be able to keep a cool head. And if you can keep a cool head under pressure, see, if you could only tell this to captains, if you could only say, look, if you teach your guys how to use deadly force appropriately, And if you teach them how to put on the choke the right way, and if you teach them how to headbutt and knee and elbow and eye jab, they're going to be less likely to hurt people. Seems like a paradox.
If you let him pull away soon, right away, it's too soon and there's not enough damage done to him. If you hang on forever, that's not your goal. You want to get him off you. So what you want to do is you want to hang on for about 5 to 10 seconds. That'll be sufficient in removing half his face. So when you're here, and then you let him pop up to here. Now I just sit up and I thrust my hip to continue the fight again.
So if you listen, okay, I'm getting all 3 beats. Again, please. Boom. Okay? That's the same thing with the double stick. Now, from my bite, if he oopas me, and most big, strong men are going to oopa you.
Break. Now, if you'll notice, he's just as fucked as he was 2 seconds ago.
As the Kung Fu master has to have his weapon near him. So we keep the weapon right here from this posture. Got a commission. I can teach you how to do that. I'm where you're at. Right there, sitting down.
I'd like to reiterate to you why we bring so much violence to the table. Because it's not in my heart. In my heart is love and compassion. And my heart is to try to give back. When I do tapes and I'm working with a SEAL team and I have to bite and eye gouge all day long, it takes me an hour to shake that off. It takes me an hour to play my music and get back to my norm. So why do we do it? And the reason is, if you know you have a 45 here, and you know you can evoke that much violence, you have a self-confidence that is unbelievable. And if you have that self-confidence that is unbelievable, you can walk through life with more love and compassion. And when you meet some asshole that bumps into you, flips you off, cusses at you, you can smile, you can laugh, and you can just go the other direction. You see, it's very easy to teach killers how to kill. That's what I do. The military are killers, and that's what I've been doing my whole life. But try to teach a child with a disability how to transmute the shame of his hand into self-love. And when you can do that, that's a feeling that is beyond anything I could ever describe to you. And I can only say that if you're real good at the violence, you'll be able to do that.